Hey everyone, Steven GetMoneyMyrick here, and I'm not going to lie, I'm actually really excited about this video I have for you all today. The reason I'm so excited is because one of the things I'm hearing right now with Asmodeel's release is that if you care about PvP, you go for Sword Flash Zia. If you care about PvE, you go for Queen. And if you want something in the middle, then you go for Asmodeel. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, how can I actually test this? And specifically, how can I test this in the context of somebody like me? How can I test in the context of maybe somebody like you, somebody that's building their first Transcendence Hero? And specifically, okay, if Sword Flash Zia is stronger and if Halora is the weakest, like how much are you actually giving up by building a Halora for PvP, versus a Sword Flash Zia or an Asmodeel? So while I don't have the resources to do this test, my guild leader Donkey Baller does. He has a V4 of all 3 Transcendence Heroes. And so I said, okay, in the context of somebody that's building their first Transcendence Hero, and if they're worrying about PvP, they want to know how much they're giving up, let's do a controlled test. So how did I do this? Well, I went about and I developed a team of 6 heroes, and I kept 5 of those heroes exactly the same. And all I did is I swapped out the Transcendence Hero. And I tried to concentrate on heroes that I thought somebody that is building their first Transcendence Hero is likely to have, right? I didn't do any like duplicates, like 2 or 3 Sherlocks, 2 or 3 Rogans. I did 1 Russ, 1 Carry, 1 Amun-Ra, 1 Sherlock, and 1 Rogan. Okay, so pretty common heroes to see at my level of PvP lineup. Nothing insane, no duplicates, anything like that. I also tried to dumb down his account a little bit and power it down. And while I did use some pay-to-win artifacts, I did not use multiples of the same pay-to-win artifacts. So I didn't have multiple, Radiant Demon Bells or multiple Splendid A and Bs, right? And all I did is I kept those exact same 5 heroes that you're very likely seeing that maybe you have those heroes, and I swapped out the Transcendence Hero. And I found 3 different teams to fight against. I tried to find teams where Asmodeel split wins back and forth, maybe not completely equally, but at least won some and lost some. Because if we're going to go under this premise that Asmodeel is in the middle of PvP, I figured, okay, well, Queen will lose more than Asmodeel, Sword Flash Zia will win more than Asmodeel, and we'll kind of graph this all out. So I found 3 different enemy teams in my friends list that I could fight against. I did 10 fights against each of them. With 3 different Transcendence Heroes, so 90 fights in total, and I graphed all those out for you. Before I get into the teams I fought and the heroes I used and what the results were, I did want to say a few quick things. One is another big thank you to Donkey Baller. Obviously, we could not test all this without his account, so thank you so much, Donkey Baller. The next thing I want to say is that I am getting very close to 700 subscribers, and I think this video is good enough to maybe push me into 800, and once we hit 800, we might as well go all the way to 1,000. So if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. If you like idle hero content, if you like learning things about the game, I try to make very educational, very concise videos to help all of my viewers out. And the final thing I want to say is that, this is not a be-all, end-all of what GetMoneyMyrick thinks is the tier list for Void Heroes, right? It is one test I did on one night, but I tried to make it very controlled, very specific, and I think it is very directional, at least, of giving an idea of how much do you gain or lose by choosing to build one Transcendence Hero over the other. I did also want to say, if you're interested in some match footage, that'll be at the end of the video after the results. So just if you're interested in seeing how some of the fights went, I've put some of the fights that I did together at the end of this video. So I did want to show you the 3 teams I tested against so you can see what heroes they were running. I tried to go for teams where I was splitting wins pretty consistently with Asmodeel, and that was sort of my baseline. So for the first team we played against, it was Spiritmonger. You can see he has a double Sherlock and a Tix, as well as a Halora, and he's at 7.2 million power. The second team we tested against was Daddy. He also has a Halora. He has a Drake in his lineup, only 1 Sherlock, and he's got a Russ instead of a Tix. And then the final team that we tested against was, this Opex right here. And this team actually has a Sword Flash Zia, an Amun-Ra, a Drake, a Russ, and a Carry, and is only at 6.3 million power, but he was splitting wins pretty consistently with us. I did want to go over the builds I used for this video. I'm going to go over the basic champions first before I get into the Transcendence Heroes. So the first thing we used a Rogan. He had artifact gear, speed attack, 3-1-3-3-2 enables, no imprints, and in some of the videos he had a 2-star demon bell, and some of the videos he just had a energy artifact, a magic source artifact. We also used a Carry with a magic source with ranger gear, speed HP, 3-1-3-3-2, and no imprints, and a legendary skin, you can see. We also used a Sherlock with a skin And we put a 1-star Rui on him and used a block HP, so a pretty traditional build, not the A and B attack build one. We also used an Amun-Ra with a magic source, priest gear, speed HP, and 3332 enables. And the final hero we used was Russ. He went between a crown and an A and B depending on which Transcendence Hero we were using, but he was using speed HP and he was using 31332. So one of the goals was I didn't want to use more than one pay-to-win artifact, as in like I didn't want 2 3-star A and Bs or 2 2-star Demon Bells or 2 Rui Scepters, right? I tried to make it so that it's something that, obviously it's a high account to have that many pay-to-win artifacts, but it's not somebody that's building like duplicate, splendid pay-to-win artifacts and trying to get the most out of the account with what they had, because I felt like that was a little bit more reasonable to what most people were dealing with. His Russ, by the way, did not have V1 either. As far as the Transcendence heroes, they were all V4 imprinted. Asmodel, we used a speed HP stone on him, and we built him very tanky, 11312, with warrior gear and a 3-star crown. So we're going for the tanky build with Asmodel. With our Scarlet Queen, Halora, we used a 2-star Demon Bell with her. We used 31332. Again, she's V4. Legendary skin, ranger gear, speed heal effect on her stone, which is interesting. That's the stone we used. I guess, it had good speed. She was going first, but we used a speed stone with her. And then for Sword Flash Xia, we used assassin gear. We used an attack. We used a 3-star A and B, and we used 31332 in order to get that speed. And again, she was V4, and again, maxed out legendary skin. So those were the champions we used throughout these builds. Some of the things that we changed up is we would bounce the energy, the 2-star Demon Bell between, like I said, we used on Halora. In some of the videos, we used it on Rogan, and some of them we used on Halora. Same thing with the A and B. We used it on Russ most of the time, except for when we had Xia. And when we had Xia, we moved the crown to Russ in order to make him tanky. So again, trying to not use more than one of the same pay-to-win artifacts. Okay, so with all that build-up, I'm sure you're very excited to see what my results actually were. And instead of, baying them out one at a time, I'm just going to go ahead and present them all right now. And so, looking at these charts, there were some very, very interesting things that stuck out to me. I do have some asterisks here. I did want to cover them. They're basically just explaining that we did move some artifacts around on the heroes in order to make a lineup that I felt was best at that moment. But basically, we didn't add any pay-to-win artifacts to the lineups. We just moved them around on heroes in order to help them. So let's go ahead and start with Asmodel. We fought against Spiritmonger, Daddy, and Opex, right? And Asmodel went 5-5, 3-7, and 3-7 for a total win-loss of 11 and 19 for a 37% win record, okay? Then with Queen, which was by far the most surprising, she went 7-3 against all 3 opponents. She had a just flat 70% win rate. And then with Xia, she went 7-3 against Spiritmonger, 6-4 against Daddy, and 1-9 against Opex. Now with Opex, there's actually something pretty interesting going on, right? Because he is using a Xia against our Xia, and so obviously his Xia was destroying us, right? So that does leave some credence to the power of Xia. I'm guessing his lineup, was optimized to make the most of his Xia, whereas I was just using 5 heroes that I expect everybody to have, right? You may not have, 3 carries laying around to buff your Asmodel. You may not have the support heroes to make your Xia the best hero, right? I was just doing 5 heroes that I thought were pretty reasonable for somebody that's building their first Transcendence hero to have. So yeah, we went 1-9 against Opex with our Xia, but we were fighting against the Xia, and she destroyed us. So you kind of, while that's 10% on our overall win-loss rate, is 47%, you could easily say it's 65%, or you could say, the Opex's Xia was 90% against us, right? And he had about a similar power level to us. So again, with these results, I'm not trying to say that Queen is better than Xia, right? But I do think it is extremely interesting, right, how bad Asmodel performed. And, I was building what I thought was the best build at the time, which was a full tanky build, to give him as much survivability as possible. He's V4, right? Obviously, it's possible there's better builds for these champions. It's possible that, with different builds, you'd have much different results. Okay, and I wasn't getting into all the different builds. I was just trying to give some directional input. What I really, really enjoyed about Queen, though, right, is she went 7-3 against all 3 opponents, right? She had a winning record against all of them. She was consistent, right, in what she was doing. And I think the biggest takeaway you can get from all of this is that like our PvP team didn't just like go to the ground as soon as we swapped in Halora, right? Like we didn't go from Asmodel to Halora and all of a sudden we went 0-10, 0-10, 0-10, right? And so based on this information and based on the fact that we know how powerful Queen is in the Void, it becomes like very, very difficult to recommend a reason why you wouldn't build Queen for your first Transcendence Hero. So obviously Asmodel's only been out a few days. We don't necessarily know what the best PvP build is for him. We haven't tested him fully in PvE, but it really feels like people are searching for reasons to not build Halora at this point. And so I wanted to give you, one of those reasons should not be your PvP. She's still an extremely powerful hero in PvP, and we know how good she is in the Void. So it seems like pretty obvious to me at this point, if what you care is about maximizing your account, why you should be building Halora. Obviously, if you want to build Shia, great. If you want to build Asmodel, all the power to you. But I think the evidence is just continuing to increase that, along with this PvP information, why you want Halora to be the very first Transcendence Hero you build. So like I said, I do have some match footage of a few of the matches I did. I did record a few fights that'll follow after I sign off here. So feel free to stick around for those if you want. But if not, I hope you really enjoyed this video. I hope you consider subscribing and liking, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.